something alluring about narratives, stories, something that draws us in, piques our interest, captures our hearts, inspire us, transform us, connect us. Today, the theme of my presentation is Healing Through Stories, a Therapeutic Approach. Pulling from my professional experience, exploration of the trauma literature, and my personal story as a trauma survivor, I'll talk to you today about 6 concepts that will help you interact therapeutically with trauma survivors as they begin their journey to exploring, organizing, and understanding their stories. So I didn't invent the concept of the narrative. Narratives, stories have been a part of our human existence since the beginning of time. I developed a method, a way, but cultures, individuals, communities long before me used their own ingenuity and creativity to develop narratives, community stories, individual stories, stories of survival, stories of strength and resilience. Stories in all of their complexity speak to us. They help us heal. They awaken our inner child, pique our curiosity, engage our senses. What is it that draws us to stories? They help us organize, make sense of our experiences. They are a tool for introspective reflection. They enable us to temporarily enter an external reality so that we can return back to our own world with deeper insight. They support us in connecting our experiences. They are a portal to new beginnings, new possibilities, new options. They create an intersection between our internal world and the external one. They support us in forming our identity. Never underestimate the transformative impact of stories. Some parts aren't easy to listen to. Some parts are chaotic. Some parts are unjust. Some parts are exhilarating. Some parts are rewarding. Some parts are empowering. Some stories don't begin how we would like them to, and all of them don't have happy endings, but each individual story is worth being told. Where there are stories of trauma, there are also stories of strength and resilience. Unfortunately, many of us as clinicians have been trained to look for symptoms, to look for pain. Trauma is no doubt an epidemic that's wreaking havoc on individuals, families, homes, communities. Unfortunately, we are easily able to identify the negative impact of trauma, the ways that it burns us, cuts us, scars us. But how can we train our eyes to see the strength and the resilience as well? Where there is trauma, there is also strength and resilience. Where there are stories of destruction, there are also stories of creativity. Sometimes we are a barrier to narrative creativity because we're afraid to allow destruction. We're afraid of conflict. We're afraid of tension. We're afraid that our paradigms and our theoretical models and our evidence-based strategies will be challenged, they'll be shaken. But what if true growth, true progress does not happen until we knock down a few walls, smash through some of the bricks, hit a sheet of glass with a hammer, so that we can help individuals, communities, move toward their full creative potential? Where there are stories of destruction, there are also stories of creativity. Some stories are unresolved and messy. There are many injustices that trauma survivors face. There are many unanswered questions. Questions like, why do bad things happen to good kids? Why do people we trust betray us? Why do those we love abandon us? Why do some kids get touched and others don't? Why do some people live in neighborhoods where guns and liquor are more easy to get than trauma treatment? Why won't the nightmares go away? Why isn't the justice system on my side? Why can't I ever catch a break? As we support trauma survivors in healing and telling their stories, we must remember this. Everything doesn't fit into a nice, pretty package. Some questions don't have answers. Despite this, how can we encourage trauma survivors to fully explore every aspect of their stories? How do we help them give voice to the pretty, give voice to the ugly? How do we handle our own discomfort when we come to the humbling realization that we don't have an answer? That our only answer is to listen, to make space for the questions, the ambiguity, the powerlessness. Now, how often as clinicians do we attempt to fix those emotions? Susie sunshine them away, instead of allowing those questions to remain suspended in the air and telling the person we're sitting beside, yes, I wish I had the answer too. We disrespect individuals' experiences by explaining them away, by giving answers to rhetorical questions, instead of sitting with them in their uncertainty and saying, yes, this is messy. Some stories are messy and unresolved. Stories are fluid and dynamic, make space for vision and hope. Working with trauma survivors isn't easy. You can't listen to and empathize with other people's stories without those same stories altering your view of others, your view of the world. But what I love about helping people tell their narratives is that as long as that person is living and breathing, their story isn't over. They can reinterpret experiences, reframe them, write new chapters, create sequels, adopt new identities, redefine themselves, invite new characters, kick toxic ones out. Working in the trenches of trauma can feel gloomy and hopeless sometimes, but remember that there is hope. The story isn't over. I'm a writer, I've always been. I used to hate those red pen marks that my teacher would leave on my papers. It shattered my perfectionism and it drove me crazy. I would literally, side note, I would literally go to each of the teachers when they left red marks, like, excuse me, there wasn't supposed to be a comma right there actually, and why did you say this was awkward? I felt like that was a really profound word to use. As I grew older though, I came to love the red pen, and the black pen, and the blue pen, the scribble marks and the cross outs, the brackets and the slashes, because it means that things can change. It means your story is getting better, stronger, clearer. Stories are fluid and dynamic. Make space for vision and hope. So the exciting thing about the Stories intervention is that it looks different for every person. And it's not about like the quality of the artwork that you're producing. It's about your narrative processing and how you're thinking about your strengths and how you're thinking about your challenges, how you're organizing them and how you're integrating them so that you can understand your future better. So there's a lot of clinicians that are doing creative things with their clients, clinicians that are like, I'm not an artist, how am I supposed to, do this with a client? But it's not about creating a Mona Lisa, it's about processing your thoughts and feelings about trauma, however that looks. I'm a mosaic artist, and I do mixed media collage mosaic. So I'll do a layer of ink, abstract, and then I color papers and stamp them, and I write emotions on them, and that's another layer. And then on top of that, I put a layer of glass so that you can see kind of the essence of the words and the expressions and the experiences through the glass, but you can't quite see it all. When I create a piece of art, that piece of artwork contains whatever emotions that I was experiencing at that point in time. It's like I'm taking whatever experiences, whatever traumas, whatever strengths, whatever victories, whatever challenges, and taking that and infusing that same energy into the piece of work that I'm creating. And I think that it's the same way with youth who sing or who write poems or who rap or who dance. If they're able to take those, there's a difference between, let me go back to the mosaic analogy. There's a difference between someone just making a mosaic and someone infusing their mosaic with emotion. I think there's also a difference between people dancing and people taking their inner pain and translating it into dance. I think that when we take that next step of infusing our creative work with our pain, with our trauma, with our strength, then that gives it power and life, and it also contains that emotion in that artistic expression. I think that creativity mitigates a whole lot of pain. That we can process a whole lot of really painful experiences if we have some type of creative outlet to infuse that feeling into. So I think that when we give children, teenagers, adults options for that creative expression, that can be a containment strategy in and of itself.